The Cleveland Browns had a disappointing finish to their 2022 season, and they needed to come into the offseason and drastically improve this roster for next year. We also have to keep in mind Deshaun Watson was actually suspended for a good amount of the season. So strictly having Watson available for, the entirety of training camp and the season will alone be enough to help this team build up their team chemistry. However, knowing this information, the Browns still wanted to go out there and add some more pieces to this team, and mainly bring in a former high draft selection in Elijah Moore, a wide receiver who will come in and be a day one starter and immediately add a whole new dynamic to this offense. Now, with that trade, that left the Browns with no selections in the first two rounds, but that didn't prevent them from finding, a couple of hidden gems all over this draft. Now, in this video, I'll be breaking down the entire Browns draft class, what they bring to the team, and why they can shock the world next season. However, before we jump into the video, make sure you guys smash that like button. It helps out the channel so much. So let's see if you guys are strong enough to get this video up to 400 likes. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I will be covering the Browns and the rest of the NFL all year long, so join the family. And one last thing, comment down below, who do you think is the biggest sleeper in this year's draft class for the Browns? Now, without any further ado, let's jump right into today's video. Now, coming into the draft, the Browns had a couple of holes in their roster that they wanted to address. Now, their biggest needs were offensive line, defensive line. They also wanted to add some depth at wide receiver as well. Now, the good news is the Browns did whatever they could to add depth and potential all over those positions. Now, firstly, bringing in another wide receiver to play alongside Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell. The Browns selected former Tennessee wide receiver Cedric Tillman with their first overall pick in this draft. It was in the third round. But with that being said, Cedric Tillman is a big wide receiver who is listed at 6'3", and has a size that made him so valuable for the Browns here in the third round. Now, Tillman is a perfect fit across from Amari Cooper. As a guy who can just go up and get a lot of 50-50 balls, I think he does a great job boxing out his defender and making big-time plays when it matters the most. I'm not sure if he's going to come in here and contribute early, but I do know that he has the talent, the potential to be a big-time wide receiver in this offense. It might just take a couple of years or a couple of weeks for him to really get, acclimated into this new system here in Cleveland. Now, I do think he can be acclimated right away into, big down, third down plays in red zone as well. I think that's what he'll be. That will be his bread and butter. But I do think he'd be a 3-down receiver at some point. I just don't know when that's going to be. But overall, I love this pick. I do think he has potential to be a very solid player in the NFL. Now, going into the second round, the Browns wanted to make sure they added a big body within their interior of the defensive line. And they did exactly that by selecting Siaki Ika. Now, Ika is going to be a major addition in terms of helping stopping the run. He is 335 pounds of pure dominance. He won't be a guy who gets to the quarterback too often, but he's going to be affect the game in so many different ways, including drawing double teams, plugging up holes, block shedding, and bringing down the running back before, they break away a huge play. I think this could be a big-time steal for the Cleveland Browns here in the third round. Now, going into the fourth round, they wanted to add to the opposite side of the trenches and, the offensive line. They drafted offensive tackle DeJuan Jones out of Ohio State. Overall, a very talented player who can be productive in both the run game and the pass attack. But he has a long way to go in order to be a star in this league. But at the very least, I do believe he can add depth. But more importantly, the potential he has to be a starter is pretty high. So I do think, while he is a fourth-round pick, I do think he holds the skill set and the potential to be a very solid player in this league. Again, I don't know when it's going to be, but I think he can learn from Cedric Wills and, a couple of other guys, Jack Conklin on this team, I think can help mold him into a very solid player here for the Browns in the future. And again, I do think he could be a very good find here for the Browns in the fourth round. Just amazing value once again. Now, before we finish off the last couple of draft selections for the Cleveland Browns, make sure you guys smash that like button if you're enjoying the video so far. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm going to be covering NFL content, or we're going to be posting NFL content all year long. So make sure you guys join the family, and let's get right back into the video. Now, with the Browns' second 4th round pick, they decided to go back to the defensive side of the ball, adding another defensive lineman in defensive end Isaiah McGuire. Now, McGuire out of Missouri is a guy who is very versatile, isn't amazing in one specific category, but can affect the game in multiple different ways. He possesses long arms and amazing lateral quickness, but really utilizes his bull rush to the best of his ability. With Jadeveon Clowney most likely headed elsewhere in free agency, they needed to at least add some depth to this group, and McGuire might not be a day one starter, but he also possesses the talent and skill set to become a starter eventually with the Browns going forward. Now, with some development, with some mentorship from a guy like Myles Garrett, that should be able to be enough to help him, mold into the player that the Browns want him to be. So we'll see what happens with Isaiah McGuire. Overall, I do like him as a player. I think he holds a lot of skills, a lot of talent to be a big-time player in this league. Just the question is, when will it happen? That's the question. Let me know when you guys think he'll be a full-time starter, if he'll be a full-time starter. Give me your opinion. But let's move on to the next pick. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting. The Browns used their 5th round selection on a quarterback in Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA, a dual-threat quarterback who has amazingly accurate arm, beautiful spiral out of his hand. Now, with that being said, Dorian is not ready to compete for a meaningful role at the moment. He struggled at times in college with just making a couple of stupid decisions, a couple of mistakes, but he possesses all the talent in the world that you would want in a quarterback. At this point, we can't really know what his role is going to be on this team, but with the Browns having Joshua Dobbs and Kellen Mond and now Dorian Thompson all fighting for a backup role, I think that this job is pretty much wide open. It could go to Dorian, it could go to Joshua Dobbs, it could go to Kellen Mond. The backup to Deshaun Watson is not yet to be known, but I do believe that Dorian has the talent, and if he can, develop a little bit here in rookie camp and training camp and preseason, I do think he could win that job. But Joshua Dobbs last season had a couple of pretty good games, so I do think Dobbs could also be in contention for that job as well. But with that being said, the Browns' last 2 selections in this draft, they just needed to add a couple more depth pieces as well as maybe some potential role players for the future as well. And they firstly brought in Cameron Mitchell, a corner from Northwestern. Personally, I really like this pick for the Browns. One of my favorite players. Mitchell has a great competitive mindset and wants to win every rep against his opponent. He has amazing athletic ability and displays solid footwork as a DB. The one downside is he's very, greedy at times. He likes to jump routes, and whenever he gets beat on those jumped routes, they're usually big-time plays. So the NFL is not going to be as forgiving in these positions. Quarterbacks in the NFL won't allow him to do this too often, and if he does try to make a big-time play, a big-time jump on a route, look for him to maybe get beat on a big-time play every once in a while. But if he can become more conservative at times, I think Cameron Mitchell can only be a very good player, but I think he could be a star in this league. Listen, right now he's behind Denzel Ward, he's behind Greg Newsome, behind Martin Emerson, but I think he has potential to be the 4th cornerback on this roster right away, being a 5th round pick, which I think is amazing value here in the 5th round for the Cleveland Browns. Now, lastly, the Browns used their final pick on a center, some more offensive line depth for the team. Luke Weifler, I don't know if I said that right, but he is on his way to Cleveland, where he's going to have a lot of development to do as well, a lot of work to put in before he plays any meaningful snaps for the Browns going forward. I like his handwork and his ability to stay in front of his opponent, but look for him to be a backup to start his career here for the Browns. But overall, I love what the Browns have done with their draft picks. Being so limited, didn't have a 1st or 2nd round pick in this draft. I think they did as much as they could, and going into the mini camp and training camp and rookie camp, I do think this team has the ability to be a very good team going into next season. Now, when you just look at all their role players and what they have on this team, I see a ton of guys who can really break out and help this team succeed in 2023. I mean, just look at the roster. At wide receiver, you got Amari Cooper, you got Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, you still got David Bell, the former 3rd round pick of last year, a new 3rd round pick this year, and Cedric Tillman. You bring in Marquise Goodwin of the Seattle Seahawks, still got Jakeem Grant, a speed demon, and Anthony Schwartz. I mean, there are guys all over this receiver core that can really help this team win next season. Now, the offensive line looks pretty good right now. Cedric Wills, you got Joel Bitonio. I don't probably said that wrong. You got Ethan Ponsick. You got Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin. At tight end, you bring in Jordan Akins to pair up with David Njoku. And Akins is a guy I really like. Used to play with Deshaun Watson back in Houston, so a familiar face for Deshaun Watson. Obviously, they still have Harrison Bryant. You've got Deshaun Watson, a couple of QBs to back him up that can fight for that job. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, doesn't look like he's going to come back, but I really love Jerome Ford's ability and what he brings as a player. So I like Jerome Ford. You got Demetric Felton Jr., who's more of a receiving back in the backfield. He could break out next year. And really, when we really look at the roster, the running back group, more specifically, I think Felton might be in for a big role here next season because Kareem Hunt played more of that receiving back role. I think Felton could do the same, but we'll see how Jerome Ford affects this offense next year. And then defensively, I like what they have, man. Obviously, you have Myles Garrett, a dominant force. You bring in Dalvin Tomlinson of the Minnesota Vikings, draft Siaki Ika. You get a guy like Isaiah McGuire in the 4th round. You bring in a guy from Houston, Ogbo Okoronkwo. I don't know if I said that right either. You still got Jordan Elliott, the former 3rd-round pick, the defensive tackle. You bring in Tristan Hill. I mean, there's a lot of depth everywhere. Still got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at, will linebacker. Anthony Walker from Indiana. You got Jacob Phillips. They might need some more linebacker help, but not bad. Not bad. And then DB group, I love the DB group. Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson, Juan Thornhill. You got Cameron Mitchell, AJ Green III, Mike Ford. I mean, I do feel like their defense right now and their ability to have depth at a lot of these positions, I think is going to help them so much. Let me know what you guys think. I feel like the Browns also picked up another player here, a cornerback or a DB. Was it Rodney McLeod? I think they brought in Rodney McLeod as well, who I think will help their safety group right away. So let me know what you guys feel. Yeah, Rodney McLeod is on the team, by the way. So he's going to be a backup safety. Could maybe play some nickel. Not too sure what he's going to do, but I overall love this Browns team right now. I think they did a good job with what they had in the draft with their draft picks. Let me know what you guys feel about the draft. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, join the family, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.